Good morning. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe's on assignment this morning. We're going to get started with that brutal heat wave roasting the Midwest and East Coast. More than 76 million Americans are now under those heat warnings as the heat index soars above 100 degrees from Iowa to Maine. For some states, these scorching temperatures are as high as 25 degrees above average. The National Weather Service expects several records to be shattered by the end of the week. With days of sweltering heat still to come, many are looking for relief from the sun, prompting officials in major cities like Boston to declare a heat emergency. Cooling centers are now open as experts urge those under that heat dome to be smart and to be safe. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman will join us in just a moment with a look at how high these temperatures will get and how long they'll last. But first, NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett is in Chicago with more on how the country is bracing for this historic heat wave.
Good morning. Tomorrow is the first official day of summer, but as we've been feeling this extreme heat across the Midwest, moving to the Northeast, it's already felt like an early summer with this unexpected heat dome. We're expecting to see high 90s here in Chicago through the weekend, and that's pushing through to the Northeast as well. As far north as Maine, the heat index is expected to hit as high as 102 degrees. 11 cities hitting or tying record highs just yesterday, about 75 more records expected to possibly fall in that next week as well. And it's dangerous heat. Officials warning people to stay inside when they can, stay hydrated even when you're in the water. Importantly, make sure you're noting that the sun is still beating down on you, needing to get those hydration breaks as well. As the heat moves east, air quality alerts and emergency measures have been triggered in many places. More air quality alerts expected today as well. And remember, that really impacts your breathing and lungs. And so that's something to keep in mind as we feel this stickiness, humidity, and dangerous heat. Now, because of that heat, also on the West Coast, 20 wildfires, at least 20 wildfires are raging there. In New Mexico, a state of emergency as 2 fires merged. One person, unfortunately, passed away as 1,400 structures in Ruidoso Downs. Also a threat. They had to evacuate that town. And so this is something in California as well. California firefighters working a 24-hour shift to get everything under control. And so this heat really affecting a wide swath of the country. Researchers, I should note, pointing out that this heat this early in the season and for such a long duration is directly tied to human-caused climate change. And so, again, this is something we're going to have to deal with for at least the next couple of days at just the start of summer. Back to you.
Exactly. Just barely getting started. Maura, thank you. Let's now get to NBC meteorologist Michelle Grossman. She is keeping a close eye on the dangerous heat for us. What do we need to know, Michelle?
Hi there, Savannah. Well, Maura gave great tips. So you want to stay hydrated, and extreme heat is the #1 weather killer. So this is a serious situation. It is prolonged, and it's in spots that typically don't see this type of weather. In New England, we're going to feel like 106 in some spots. So right now, we're looking at 74 million people impacted by heat alerts. We're looking at heat advisories, heat watches, heat warnings for Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Boston, Bangor. That's going to be the spot that's going to see some really hot temperatures over the next several days. There's that jet stream still so high to the north, and it's allowing all this hot air to come in. And we're going to soar once again into the 90s, 10 to 20, even 25 degrees above normal for this time of year. So notice those 90s, but also notice the boxes next to those. Syracuse, it will feel like 104 once you factor in that humidity. It'll feel like 91 in New York City. It's going to feel like 105 today in Bangor, Maine. And that's going to be the same story tomorrow. Tomorrow feeling like 104, feeling like 96 in Buffalo. Lots of 90s still tomorrow. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, D.C., Providence, Rhode Island. We're looking at 93 degrees. And then that heat goes on as we head towards Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And models are indicating into early next week in spots, too. So we're looking at St. Louis in the triple digits on Saturday, Atlanta 95, Norfolk looking at 95. Heating up outside. We're heating up in the tropics as well. We have a tropical system, not quite yet a tropical storm, expected to be Tropical Storm Alberto later on this morning. But right now, looking at winds at 40 miles per hour. It's moving northwest at 8 miles per hour, regardless of if it does get that name or not. The impacts are going to be the same. We're looking at lots of rain in portions of southern Texas. Could see 10, even 15 inches of rain in some spots. It will make landfall later on tonight or early tomorrow morning in Mexico, but that rain shield is very large. The reason why we do have tropical alerts extending from Lake Jackson all the way down to portions of southern Texas, South Padre Island. We're looking at flash flooding, river flooding, large wave, coastal inundation. Could see winds up to 50 miles per hour. So where you see that orange there, we're looking at tropical conditions as we go throughout today and even early tomorrow. tomorrow.
All right, so much going on across the country. Michelle, thank you so much. See you in a little bit. Well, this morning, former President Trump is slamming the White House after President Biden announced a new executive action allowing undocumented people who are married to American citizens to stay in the country within certain guidelines. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley has more details and reaction to Mr. Biden's plan.
Biden announcing a sweeping new executive action, preventing the deportation of an estimated 500,000 migrants who are married to U.S. citizens.
These couples have been raising families, sending their kids to church and school, paying taxes.
The new move applies to migrants who cross the border illegally and have been here for at least 10 years. They'll now get a path to citizenship. Previously, migrants who cross the border illegally would have to leave the country to apply for citizenship through marriage, and some were denied re-entry. A risk Javier Quiroz Castro wasn't willing to take.
I have a wife, I have 2 kids, I have a home. This is not something that I want to, roll the dice at all whatsoever with.
Quiroz Castro is a nurse in Houston, where he lives with his high school sweetheart, Haley, their 5-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son. The White House says he'll likely benefit from the president's move.
What do you and your wife tell your children about your immigration status and your journey?
My daughter doesn't fully understand. She has no idea what's at stake. I guess the stress, the uncertainty.
There have been a record nearly 10 million illegal border crossings since President Biden took office. Former President Trump calling the move an unconstitutional mass amnesty that will encourage more people to come here illegally.
Our country is under invasion. We should not be talking amnesty. We should be talking about stopping the invasion instead.
And it follows the president's executive action, tightening asylum restrictions. Since then, the number of illegal border crossings has dropped from 4,000 a day to just over 2,100 a day, according to DHS officials. Though smugglers are boasting nothing at the border has changed. This smuggler advertising on WhatsApp his menu of available routes for migrants to cross illegally into the U.S.
Now, the White House says eligible applicants can start applying by the end of this summer for this new protection, but we should say it may face some significant legal challenges.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. Well, 3 allies of former President Donald Trump indicted in the fake electors case in Arizona have pleaded not guilty. Jenna Ellis, an attorney for Mr. Trump during his 2020 presidential campaign, Trump advisor Boris Epshteyn, and Jim Layman, a former Senate candidate, were arraigned in Phoenix yesterday. All 3, along with 15 others, face forgery, fraud, and conspiracy charges related to alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in Arizona in favor of Mr. Trump. Well, turning now to Capitol Hill, where the CEO of Boeing attempted to defend the company's safety record in front of lawmakers during a fiery Senate hearing yesterday. Now, the Senate committee says a new whistleblower has come forward, raising more questions about Boeing's quality control. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the latest.
Met by chants of shame as he entered the hearing room, Boeing CEO David Calhoun quickly apologized to the families of those who died in 2 MAX 8 crashes overseas.
I apologize for the grief that we have caused.
And promised Boeing is changing.
Our culture is far from perfect, but we are taking action and we are making progress.
But Calhoun came under immediate bipartisan fire.
This hearing is a moment of reckoning.
For the MAX 8 crashes, the MAX 9 door plug blowout in January, quality control breakdowns, defective parts, and whistleblower reports of falsified documents, intimidation, and retaliation.
It appears that Boeing has fostered a culture that censors people who try to speak up and help.
You're the problem. And I just hope to God that you don't destroy this company before it can be saved.
Today, a new whistleblower claims Boeing's 737 MAX assembly line lost hundreds of parts that did not meet Boeing specs, which he claims were hidden from FAA inspectors and may have ended up in planes, and that it could lead to a catastrophic event.
I have not directly spoken to any of the whistleblowers.
Do you think that'd be a good idea to do that?
Yeah, I think it would.
Many family members remain furious at a previous Justice Department agreement allowing Boeing and its execs to avoid criminal prosecution after the fatal crashes. But Justice now says Boeing has violated that agreement. Nadia Milleron lost her daughter, Samia Stumo.
He is responsible for 346 deaths, and he's free, and he has no criminal charges against him at all.
Zipporah Curria lost her father.
I've never seen worse acting in my life than David Calhoun's apologies or attempt to apologize.
Prosecutors have until July 7th to decide whether to file criminal charges. But Boeing is critical to the national economy, the space program, and national defense. So the government has a lot to weigh in deciding whether to file charges. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. Well, in New York, pop star Justin Timberlake is facing charges of driving while intoxicated after he was arrested in the Hamptons late Monday. Timberlake spent the night in jail before being released. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin has the details behind the arrest and the charges to which the singer has pleaded not guilty.
Justin Timberlake arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated. According to the Suffolk County District Attorney, he pleaded not guilty and was released. The singer was photographed by thedailymail.com in handcuffs, heading to court in Sag Harbor, a ritzy beach community on eastern Long Island. A source close to Timberlake tells NBC News the 43-year-old had dinner at the exclusive American Hotel. He was driving a 2025 BMW to a friend's house after midnight when, according to court documents, he failed to stop at this stop sign and swerved in 2 different places. Police pulled him over. The officer determined Timberlake was intoxicated, writing, his eyes were bloodshot and glassy. A strong odor of an alcoholic beverage was emanating from his breath. He had slowed speech, and he performed poorly on all standardized field sobriety tests. According to the documents, Timberlake told the officer, I had 1 martini and I followed my friends home. He was arrested and brought to police headquarters where he stayed overnight, having refused a chemical test to determine his blood alcohol levels 3 times. NBC News reached out to Timberlake's representatives and has yet to hear back. The performer was in Sag Harbor on a break from his world tour promoting his new album. The legendary Billy Joel, who had lunch at the same hotel, reacting to Timberlake's arrest.
Judge not lest you be.
All right. Our thanks to Aaron for that report. Well, for more on Justin Timberlake's legal troubles, we are joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Sabalos. Danny, good morning. Let's start with him being held overnight. I think just the thought of that, like, oh, he slept in jail. Like, people are like, is that normal? Is that what was supposed to happen? Could he have called somebody? Is that normal? Why is that?
That is the life of a DUI defendant, because most DWIs happen at night when the judge is at home sleeping. And since they have to go before the judge, that usually happens the next day. So most DWI defendants find themselves spending the night in jail one way or another.
This whole refusal of the, quote, chemical test, what do you make of that? I think it's fairly common, right, for somebody to say, I'm not going to take this test, and then you don't have some metric on me that kind of confirms or denies this. What do you make of that?
So in New York, refusal of the chemical test is a little misleading. The chemical test can mean a breath test. It can mean a blood test. It can mean a urine test. And it appears that we're talking about a breath test in this case. There is a refusal to take a breath test in New York, but that's the portable breath test that is like held in someone's pocket or in the police car. And it's really just used to determine the presence of alcohol. It's not even admissible at court. What the refusal of the chemical test is like the breathalyzer, the intoxilizer. It's a larger machine that's back at the police station, and it's operated by somebody who is trained to operate it. So that's the refusal. In New York, a refusal gets you usually a license suspension, and that refusal can be used against you in the DWI prosecution. And it's really important to know that New York is one of those states, like I think every state, you do not need a blood alcohol reading to be charged with DWI. They can get you on all of the glassy eyes, slurred speech, and you failed the field sobriety test. That's enough to get a DWI. You do not need a blood alcohol reading.
So that leads me to my next question, which is, so if he doesn't have that blood alcohol reading, so there's not that hard metric, but this officer says he did this, he did that, he did that. Seems like it could become a he said, he said. However, body camera footage.
Right.
Can you take, oh, that person looks really drunk, and does that help make the officer's case? And do you think we as the public will see that?
20 years ago, before the advent of body cameras, the client would come to the criminal defense attorney and say, I was fine. I passed all those tests. That cop had it out for me. He was making it up. And to some degree, that is a defensible position. But the advent of body cameras have created the situation where the client comes to the attorney and says, I was totally fine. And then you get the video and you realize, no, indeed, you were not fine. But I also have to say, things like the standard field sobriety tests are very subjective. The people that administer them, I'm being biased, obviously, the ones that administer of them will say they are objective, but they are done on the side of a road in the middle of the night by an officer. And here's the key. The officers who end up testifying and convicting these defendants are not trained medical professionals. So when they say glassy eyes, slurred speech, and by the way, all those magic words showed up on Timberlake's arrest report. You could have cut and pasted those from every DWI report in the history of DWIs. They all say the same thing. Odor of alcohol, glassy eyes, slurred speech, divided attention. All of the hits were in that report. They're the classics. But the strange thing is we have a system where we allow people to get convicted based on the testimony of someone who is not a trained medical professional, just based on their observations. But in the modern time, it's not just their observation, it's the observation of that little camera on their chest.
So he is on a world tour right now. He is due back, though, in court, I believe, on July 26th. What happens next, and could that impact what he's able to go do, like perform in front of thousands of people?
In all likelihood, no. He won't be affected. He'll be allowed to travel. But here's the thing. Justin Timberlake may have done the right thing. Yes, when you refuse a chemical test in New York, you will be looking at a license suspension and some other penalties. But there will never be a record of your blood alcohol content, which may be good for Timberlake from a public relations perspective, in that no one will ever be able to say, hey, you had a .12 and you were driving. At least at this point, he will still likely have a very good shot of being convicted of the DWI. Again, you don't need the blood alcohol reading. You can just get him on the observations. But at least he has the defense to the public that, hey, no one ever got me on a blood alcohol content reading.
Danny Savalas, we appreciate you as always, and the one you're quite an expert on. Thank you so much. Not from experience, from defense. Baseball fans are mourning the loss of an all-time legend this morning. Hall of Famer and Giants icon Willie Mays passed away yesterday at the age of 93. Mays, who was renowned for his ability at the plate or in the field, inspired countless fans. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson takes a look back at his incredible life and legacy.
It would become one of baseball's most legendary moments, Game 1 of the 1954 World Series. An over-the-shoulder catch that would be immortalized in baseball history. Over his 23 seasons on the diamond, Willie Mays, the say-hey kid, went from one of the game's star players to one of its legends. 660 home runs, more than 3,000 hits, 24 All-Star appearances, 12 straight Golden Glove awards, and a World Series ring. Hall of Fame Giants broadcaster John Miller says there's a little to argue about.
At his peak, you could make a very strong case that Willie Mays was the best player there ever was.
Growing up in segregated Alabama with two athlete parents, he was a natural talent early on, signed by the Negro League team while still in high school. Despite his accolades on the field, life for a black family in the Deep South was hard.
I can only imagine the things that he saw and endured. They had the Jim Crow laws, and they had the Ku Klux Klan.
Leading the Birmingham Black Barons to a World Series before getting signed to the major leagues by the New York Giants. He started strong, winning Rookie of the Year before being drafted into the Army. When Mays returned to the game, he led the Giants to a World Series victory with the catch. The Giants moved to San Francisco, where he faced racial prejudice. Mays and his wife were told they couldn't buy property in the city, a common practice to keep black families out. Mays stayed focused on the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, Willie Mays!
And finished his career back in New York with the Mets, his last game in 1973. Mays never left baseball, serving as a part-time coach, manager, and an all-around ambassador to the game.
Willie Howard Mays, Jr.
In 2015, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, capping an incredible career, life, and legacy. A champion on the field, an icon off it.
What I did, I loved every moment of it.
Steve Patterson, NBC News.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.